All right, good morning. This is Melissa Ryan with Cambium Counseling, and I'm here with Jenny.
Warchesik, yeah, Golden Yoga Sanctuary.
Yes, and so I invited Jenny to join me on Facebook Live, where she could talk a little bit more about the studio and also something that comes up probably in both the work that we do, mine and my counseling and yours in working with yoga students doing yoga, which is around self-care. But before we get started, I wanted to share with you guys how Jenny and I met. So about a year ago, I met Jenny while she was teaching yoga and doing some work out of the Golden Well-Being Collective here in Golden. And I was renting space, getting my private practice started, and
Yes.
That's how we connected.
Yes, it is.
And we've had lots of good conversations.
Absolutely.
And you recently purchased the Golden Yoga Sanctuary, correct?
I did. It was Golden Yoga and Healing Arts, and Carrie Ann needed to refocus on her family. She needed to self-care in a big way. She needed to self-care and refocus and spend time with her beautiful daughters before they graduate from high school and move on with their life. And she wanted to refocus on that. And she was just needing to step back and have more time.
And focus, and that provided you this opportunity
Yes.
to take over this beautiful space. Will you share with the audience where you're located, kind of?
Absolutely. So we're off the 6th Avenue frontage road. If you're coming towards the Foothills Animal Shelter or towards the Jefferson County Fairgrounds, you just keep coming down that street and continue like you think you're going to go into nowhere, and the road curves, and then we're over on the right. So you can look for us under Golden Yoga Sanctuary and we'll pop up. You can just look for Golden Yoga. We'll pop up. You can get some information on how to find us.
Awesome. So now you know that where they're located. What we wanted to dive into was self-care, as we shared previously. The holidays are still here. For some, they've passed through, met family.
Yeah.
It's a lot going
There's
on.
a lot going on at this time of year. People are crazy and they add all this stuff onto their plate. They've got their normal activities, their normal workload. Then they've got extra workload half the time because of year-end projects and things that have to happen for businesses and companies. So you pile that on the plates. And then you pile all the relatives coming or you traveling and all of those things and the festivities that you want to participate in. There's a lot. There's a lot to try to do and accomplish. And it's so easy to let the little things that you do for self-care fall away. And it happens to all of us.
And so as Jenny's sharing, there's just a lot that can happen. So our question that we wanted to open up to you guys is, what are the things that get in the way, in addition to the holidays, with you attending class?
Right. What keeps you from the mat? You know it's good for you. All the research is there, all the information is there to back up that yoga practice is good for you. If you're not sure, then I put up a link to an article yesterday about 13 benefits from doing yoga that are scientifically proven. So it's there. Yoga is good for you. It helps you in so many ways. If you've ever done a practice, you know you felt better probably after doing class. So what is it? What is it that keeps you or prevents you from coming and taking class and doing that on a regular basis? So just if you want to share that with us.
We'd love you to engage and share with your peers, and we'll probably see some common threads amongst folks of whether it's work or responsibilities with kiddos or to a partner, or the list can go on and on of all the things in our lives, right? And so you mentioned there's more research out there. So please share with the audience like some of the ways we're seeing yoga show up and what that research looks like.
Absolutely. I mean, they're starting to do studies now of groups of people who do yoga and who don't do yoga. And when they look at these studies, though, it's over a long period of time. It's not just one class. So any yoga is better than no yoga, yes, but a regular practice and a long practice. So most of these we're showing at least 10 weeks or 3 months worth, and then seeing some of the benefits change. So, I mean, starting a practice and continuing with it is going to help benefit. It's going to help. It can help with your heart. It can help reduce blood pressure. It can help with stress and anxiety. It can actually reduce signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. They did some studies with people who were diagnosed with this, and then they did the practice, and then by the end of the 10 weeks or whatever, or the 3-month practice that this one was doing, some of their signs, they weren't even on the scale anymore for PTSD. markers had dropped off. So doing this, it helps. It helps blood flow. It helps your balance. If you're having trouble as we age, we lose the ability to actually balance, and we start becoming wobbly, and guess what? That's dangerous, because then you fall. Guess what happens when you fall? You break something, you hurt something. That's not self-care. That's the opposite of self-care. That's injury. And so yoga can help you learn how to regain your balance. If you feel that you're losing that, if you find that happening, come into classes and you'll regain that. You'll regain knowledge of yourself and awareness of self.
Which is huge. And like Jenny is saying, Jenny and I were talking earlier about, not only we're seeing these symptoms, but big organizations, hospitals, the VA has embraced yoga as a practice for healing. And so if you're like, well, it just feels, I don't know, the term we used in grad school was woo-woo. It feels very woo-woo. There's scientific evidence that's out there in the community that you can, as Jenny said, she posted some information on the Golden Yoga Sanctuary page. There's just tons of research out there. You can look on, I know clients have shared with me that there are programs through the VA related to yoga, and so we know that it's being implemented in a variety of settings and people are seeing huge benefit.
Yes, absolutely.
And something that is unique about going to a class that is different if you're doing an online program is the community base, right?
Definitely. You get to know some of the people that are coming to classes. If you come, a lot of students will come to the same class every week. And then they get to know not just me or the teacher that they're taking from, they get to know the other students that are coming too. And they bond and they talk about things and they share things. So there's that community that happens and builds. Also, good things that you learn when you come to a class is the difference between what I think I'm doing is right and when a teacher can actually look at you and help you and say, no, actually you gotta be here. No, you need to shift here. Change this, because I've seen many bodies doing yoga, and you might think that you're doing the posture to the best of your ability and that's all we want, but you might be able to shift and change something a little differently that I can see or another teacher sees that you won't see or you don't know. And you're never going to get that feedback if you're only doing yoga on your own or at home. You come to a class, you're going to get different awareness of where you really ought to be in a posture, and a little more help getting there and knowing maybe when you're not in the pose. And you can ask questions too. Can't ask questions of a camera or of a video. You can ask questions of a teacher, either during class, before, after, whenever.
Yeah, and that's also what's really neat is I've had couples, as my folks know that I'm going to post this on, know I'm a couples counselor, and so I often see value and my couples report value in doing activities together. So if they go to a yoga class and practice self-care together, they can support each other in those goals. It feels they get to build a community together. One of the areas where I've seen a lot of value in that is I work a lot with couples in recovery from drugs and alcohol. And so one or more of the partners is in recovery, and so they come together. This is a new yoga can be so helpful in terms of reconnecting with their body, in terms of reconnecting with each other. Absolutely. This is a shared activity, and it just has that full package of moving the body, quieting the mind, which can be such a huge relief, right?
Yes, that's when you get into the relief from anxiety and stress,
And stress, and that can be disruptive not only in our lives, professional lives, but in our relationships when our mind is racing or we feel really depleted. In a live video I did with the chiropractor, I talked with him about how, if we think of our life bar like in a video game, right? And throughout the day, the life bar can go down from the different activities we do day to day. Finding those activities that increase your life bar.
Yes, and yoga can definitely be one of those things that builds you back up instead of depleting you and sucking away from you. It builds you back up.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And you get it not only from the individual practice and dedicating that time to yourself, you get it also from the community, the connections with others, the connections with with your teacher, and just how powerful it is that you're all there supporting each other.
Yeah, they're supporting each other, and you're sharing energy too.
Mm-hmm.
We're all energy. I mean, there's information about that too. So as you're doing a practice on your own, yes, you feel better, but when you're doing practice with others, you're sharing in their energy too. Everybody's building, and that's part of what you feel at the end of a class when you sit, and you just can feel, a lot of times when I finish a class, students don't want to move, they don't want to leave, they just want to sit there, and they're basking in that energy. They're soaking up that energy, and that raised together, everybody's contributing to that, and it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing.
Yes, and it touches on this concept, which I also talk with my couples about, which is interdependence, which is this idea that we can co-create more together than we could individually. So if you were to add, if everyone was doing yoga at home, that would be of benefit, and we're not discounting that.
No,
that's great.
A good thing.
And if we were to add that up individually, it wouldn't equal even close to the amount of when everyone gets together and creates that energy together and that experience together.
Definitely.
And so, one of the things you and I touched on is what to do. It's the holidays. Maybe people can't get into a class.
Right.
Maybe they're out of their routine. What are little self-care practices that you've seen to be a benefit?
You can do yoga anywhere, any place. All you have to do is breathe. Breathing is yoga. Mindful breathing is a practice of yoga. It's pranayama, breath work. So just taking a slow, deep breath. Let's do one right now. Just in through the nose and back out through the nose. And you can just feel, and everybody else that's watching, take a deep breath. And let it go. And already things are starting to shift, right? Things are starting to change. You're more relaxed in your body. You're more aware of the breath and more aware of the physical body. So paying attention to your breath, changing your breath patterns, doing a little bit of pranayama breath work practice can change your life in 5 minutes. So there's different techniques and different things you can do. You can Google them, you can look for them, you can come into class and I'll teach them. I often will teach some breath work at the beginning of classes because it is powerful, and it is, you don't have to have special clothes, you don't have to lay down a mat, you don't have to have a lot of room. You can do it in your car, while you're driving someplace, to your next activity, your next event, while you're driving home from work, before you get home, and you've got to go into the house with all the family or all the whatever craziness that's happening, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm depleted from work, I'm tired, and now I have to go, and all this expectation is put on me. So before you go in, take 5 minutes in your car and breathe, and just reconnect to you and have that transition time. So finding those transitions, those moments between where you focus on you and focus on your breath, where you notice, where are you holding your tightness, where are you holding your tension? The holidays attention is increased, even if it's good tension, even if it's, I'm so happy I get to see all the people I love the most, but you don't get as much sleep, you don't get as much proper food. We're eating probably more, but maybe not the right things. So, all these things are depleting your energy perhaps. And how do you get that back? Just
Even if it's 5 minutes, like you
5
said.
minutes breathing, and even just a little bit of stretching, a little bit of movements, anything you can work in. You don't have to do, a full yoga practice, but doing any different postures, any different breathing, just building in. And it's easier to do those things, I think, too, if you come and have a regular practice and you know some of the things to do. And so I'll have students who come to a regular practice and they're like, I practiced at home. I did only 20 minutes. I'm like, that's fantastic for a home practice because you have to think about it harder. That's too a benefit of coming to class when you're trying to do your own home practice. If you're just like, okay, you don't get very far, and that's okay. You generally don't know what to do after 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and you're distracted. You're like, oh, the dishes, oh, the phone, oh, the TV, oh, the pet, whatever. You're distracted by all these things too. So, if you can do anything at home, that's fine. Any little bit of practice, but it's easier if you come and set aside the time, let a teacher create the flow for you so you don't have to think. You can set the mind aside, and you can really take that time to just settle in. And I think it's interesting, you mentioned the couples, and I've seen an increase, I think, in couples coming to classes together, and I think it's lovely. I think it's wonderful, because yes, you're not only caring for self, but you're sharing that with each other. You're both caring for yourself, but together. And then you can talk about maybe things that you learned during class, or what was your favorite pose, or, and there are different partner classes too that you can find and that you can go to with each other and actually practice with one another more hands-on. So there's some wonderful things you can do with just coming.
Like, is it aerial yoga, or what is it that there's some yoga techniques where actually it helps to have a partner?
Oh, sure. I mean, there are specific classes for. I mean, and there are poses and things that you can do with a partner. You can do tree poses together and use each other for support and different things like that. So there are all kinds of different classes you can look for. That just made me think maybe we should have one here. We haven't done one in a while. But yeah, and it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It could be a friend. It's a partner that you can do poses with and those kinds of things and connect in different ways.
Which is so great. And like you were saying, it's finding that moment to just carve out movement. And so something to think about, because I have found this to be helpful for me, is when I'm at the airport, is I do yoga poses and stretches because you're chilling, especially anymore now. You gotta get to the gate so early. You have all this time. Everyone's sitting there. It feels not that great on your body, and so usually I find a corner or a space where there's less traffic, and I just do I just move and I stretch, and it feels so good. And actually, my partner and I on longer trips. Actually, when we flew to New Zealand, we probably spent an hour and a half doing yoga at the airport.
That's wonderful.
And it felt so good, and it's so good for your body on the plane, where you're not going to be moving as much.
No, you're stuck, and the seats keep getting smaller.
Yes.
And you keep getting scrunched, and the seat's coming closer to you, and you're just like this in your seat almost.
Yeah.
But you do often have a little room up. So a lot of things I like to do in a plane is just reach up and stretch out the arms, right? And
so
you can do it right
good.
now, right? Just reach up, and there's room. And I do have a lot of students too that travel a lot, so for work or for pleasure. And it's hard on the body. You're lugging luggage, you're schlepping luggage around. It's heavy. You probably take more than you need. I do. I take more than I need. So you've got this heavy stuff. You're going from one place to another, far distances a lot of the times. You've got a bunch of bags. You're not paying attention to your posture. You're in a hurry. You might be stressed out if you don't leave yourself enough time to get to, you might be rushing, or the parking lot was fuller and it took you longer. Everything takes longer than you want it to. So you're hurrying to one place and then you're stopping and you're stuck and you're in line. And then you hurry to another place and then you're stopping and you're stuck, and then you get crammed into a little sardine seat. And and it hurts. It's hard on the body. So moving before, in between, any moment that you have while you're in the seat, anything.
Any sort of movement. So good. And even I saw, and I'll see if I can find this and then I'll link it on this page. But I found this, it was like exercises you can do in a seat.
Yes.
And it included this and like flexing your feet, circling your feet.
Yes. Wrists, and you can find little twists too. Anywhere you're in any kind of a seat, you can find some little twisting, which is so nice for the spine.
Exactly.
And doing these movements too. During the day at your desk. If you're sitting at a desk, you can do these things. Roll your shoulders around. Move the head, look different directions. Let it come side to side. So these are things too you can build into your normal day during your normal routine to self-care.
Exactly. And setting an alarm might be helpful. I've had clients that set an alarm. So they work 45, 50 minutes, which lots of research has shown that we can only sit for a short amount of time in terms of our intention and productivity. And so I've had clients set 45, 50 minute alarm, and then they take 5 minutes to stretch, they go get water, tea, and they set another alarm, and then they go back to work, and it helps break up the day so it doesn't feel so long and monotonous. I've had other clients that incorporate like a gratitude practice, which also helps with the mindfulness. And so a really easy one is at 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 12:34. You reflect on 4 things that you're grateful for of the day, and that can be, or another client used that using senses. So they did like 1 thing that they could see, 2 things they could smell, 3 things that they could taste, 4 things they could touch, or however you want to mix it up.
That's beautiful. Right. Just bringing yourself into this moment is also good for self-care, because when we're stressed out, when we're worried about things, it's either something that's already happened generally, so it's something we're rehashing from the past. That's done. It's over. It's gone. Yeah, you can think about it, but you can't change it. Can't change it all what happened. It's happened. Or you're thinking about what's coming at me in the future. What does the next day hold, the evening hold? oh boy, I got this horrible thing I gotta do. Oh, I don't want to do this presentation. Whatever it might be, you're stressing out about what's coming ahead of you. None of the stress generally is what's happening to you in the moment. There's really not a lot of stress for the most part for most of us in our moment. If you get into the moment, a lot of the stress is gone. The past is done. We can't change it. We don't need to worry about the future. You can proactively plan for it and take steps for it, but sitting around going, oh boy, I don't want to do this presentation, it makes me nervous. Instead, do some breathing, do some deep breathing, and then use that right before your presentation too, and you'll feel that much better.
And you'll feel that much lighter and better. And so hopefully we provided some tips that are easy, accessible. I have one last one that I just thought about, since there's a lot of sweets around this time of year. An exercise you can do that's available to you is to take a chocolate or whatever sweet and just mindfully and slowly enjoy every single bite, and you know, feel what it feels like in your mouth, on your tongue, you know, even before you take a bite, what does it smell like? And that's another awesome exercise to really bring you into the moment and help you experience something that's a sensory experience that we know then calms our limbic brain and our amygdala. Those brains really, that part of our brain really does well with sensory experiences. So it makes it feel good.
Perfect. And then you don't have to forgo all the treats. But if you enjoy the one that you're having, you don't need as many either.
Exactly.
You really take time to
take it in. Yeah, exactly. So it also helps you be more mindful around your eating, which can be really good for us as well. So, any last thoughts, Jenny?
Just loved chatting with you, Melissa.
Yeah,
I hope you guys enjoyed watching.
And please leave a comment, share again about our question of today, which is, what are the things that get in the way of you coming to class or you getting out on the mat? And yeah, we enjoyed this conversation. Please, stay tuned. Hopefully Jenny does more of these, because I think it would be great. She's a wealth of information.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, take care, everyone. Good job.
All right, we did it.
How'd it go for you?
Good, I think.
Good?
Yeah. What do you think?
I think it was good. Yeah, it's great.
So did anybody sign in or no?
Yeah, did you see people were signing? There's a little live thing.